Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brittney and today we're making gingerbread men. But these gingerbread men, in my opinion, taste better than any others, and that's because they aren't made from gingerbread. Okay, gingerbread isn't that bad, but is it really that good? I don't know. Do you guys like gingerbread cookies? Let me know in the comments down below. I don't really like them that much. I especially don't like the royal icing used for the frosting. Crunchy cookie, crunchy icing, it's just not my thing. But what I do like is chocolate. So today I'm going to show you how to make chocolate covered caramels in the shape of gingerbread men. And I'll show you how I like to decorate them all cute to look just like gingerbread cookies. So let's get started. Here are the supplies that you'll need. First, you'll need some caramel. If you have a favorite homemade caramel recipe, feel free to use that. If you'd like to take the easy way out, like I am today, you can just buy a brick of Peter's caramel. I'm sorry, this stuff is just great. It's so convenient and it really does taste good. So, highly recommend. You'll also need some chocolate for dipping the caramels in. You can use tempered couverture chocolate, or you can use compound chocolate. Today I'll be using my favorite compound chocolate, which is Van Leer dark chocolate snaps. If you don't know the difference between the two, check out my video here where I explain all the different kinds of chocolate. You'll need a gingerbread man cookie cutter. Mine is probably like 2 inches. I really like this one because, you know, chocolate dipped caramels can be pretty rich. So I like to make them kind of small, and this one is the perfect size. I'll try to find one similar to link below. I don't know where I got it. A chocolate dipping tool set is helpful, but not necessary. If you don't have this and don't want to buy them, then you can use the mini metal offset spatula or a couple of these, or a fork. You will need a sheet tray as well as 2 silicone baking mats like this, a couple sheets of parchment paper, and a couple parchment paper piping bags like this. And if you don't know how to make these, check out the video linked here. And then you'll want some candy melts. This is what I'll be using to decorate my gingerbread men. If you'd like, you can use sprinkles and other fun decorations and get really creative with it. But for me, I like to keep these kind of minimal. And don't forget that I always link all of the supplies that I'm using down in the description box. So if you're using Peter's caramel, you're going to just cut off a chunk. And I'm not measuring, I'm just cutting a decent amount based upon how many little gingerbread people I want to make. Before I put it in the bowl, I'm also going to cut it into smaller chunks. And to warm this up, I'm going to do on power level 5 or 50%. And I'll start at 1 minute, and then the more melty it gets, I'll just lower the cooking time, but always power level 5. That prevents this from burning. If you don't want to do it in the microwave, you can do it in a double boiler over the stove, watching it carefully and stirring it. So 1 minute, power level 5, and I'll stir it in between if I can. It'll take a while for it to get melty. And if you're using a homemade caramel recipe, make sure that it's a pretty firm caramel recipe, and you'll obviously skip this step and jump to the next step while your caramel is still fluid. So when you have your liquid caramel, you'll take your sheet tray with the silicone baking mat and just pour it on. Now, if your caramel is fluid enough, you can spread it to the thickness you want. I'm trying to think how thick I make mine. Maybe between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch thick, but just however thick you want your caramels to be. The reason I said you could use 2 silicone baking mats is if you're having a hard time spreading the caramel, you can lay a second one on top and use a rolling pin. I don't need to because this caramel's pretty fluid once you get it melted. And it's pretty easy to spread. And then if I leave it alone, it should sit here and it'll actually get pretty flat and smooth on its own as it settles. But just want to make sure I know how thick it is. So spread it out as evenly as you can. You can try to check the thickness by putting spatula in. Yeah, it's not too thick. It looks pretty good. So now I just want it to cool down, and you can cool it quick in the fridge, but then you'll want to let it warm back up to room temperature before dipping it in the chocolate. You want to always have the temperatures as close to each other as possible, or there could be streaking. The chocolate will cool down too quick, and your gingerbread people could have little white streaks. So if you do put it in the fridge to set up, which I am going to do, you'll want to pull it out and let it warm back up just a little bit before dipping. All right, it's been about 15 minutes in the fridge, and the caramel's feeling firm. I'm just going to cut out the gingerbread people. And I'm just setting them aside on another sheet tray with a parchment paper. And as you can see, I have a lot of extra caramel because I didn't need this many gingerbread men. And you can just store it in an airtight container and reuse it again. And you can just store it at room temperature. So that's what I will do with this. Now I'll just melt my compound chocolate in the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, stirring in between until smooth. Okay, I've got my melted chocolate. Let's pour that into my dipping bowl. And you'll pick up your little guy. Drop him in. I like to use the one with 3 because it's more support. I'm just going to press him down and cover him with chocolate. And then tap it against the chocolate. It'll pull off all the extra. And then give him a swipe and carefully set it down. And my caramel's still a little bendy, which is unfortunate. If you have a stiffer caramel, this is obviously easier because it moves around while I'm dipping, but it'll still be okay. As you saw, he was like folded over and then flattens out a little bit when you put it back down on the parchment. So it can be done, but it would be more ideal if you have a thicker caramel. But just press down and cover with chocolate, scoop him up, tap against the surface, it'll pull off the excess, and then scrape. And carefully put on the parchment. So obviously if your caramel's a little bit soft still, it helps to be quick about the dipping. The quicker you do it, the less they'll bend. And if you need help getting them off the fork, you can use a second fork to kind of pick them off. Now once the chocolate is set up, you can just gently lift your little people off the parchment. I like to move them onto a clean one for decorating. Now if you have a little edge like I do on some of these, it should be thin and you can just break it off just to make it look a little cleaner. I don't worry about it too much. They are handmade after all, so, you know, they're not gonna be perfect, but they look pretty cute. And to decorate, I'm just going to melt my candy melts for 30 seconds at a time, stirring in between until smooth, just like always, and put the different colors in parchment paper piping bags. Okay, so how I like to decorate these, I just start with a piping bag with white candy melts. And like I mentioned earlier, I like to do these pretty minimal, the decorations, just because they're pretty small and I just think they look better and cleaner with minimal decorations. But I just start by putting a little smiley face. And just a tip, the smaller you can cut the hole, the cleaner they will look. And then I just do the little classic gingerbread man ruffle. I mean, what do you call this? Little kind of zigzags. And the last thing I do to finish them off is simply add some buttons. It's kind of fun to rotate the colors. If you want to get more creative, you can add a bow tie or a little bow on top of the head. All right, guys, here are the finished chocolate-covered caramel gingerbread people. I hope that you found this video helpful and that you learned something new. If you did, please let me know by liking the video and leaving a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, today's the day. If you'd like to see some more fun holiday themed videos, just click on this playlist. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.